Right, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Robert. Welcome to your mobility and stretch class. Let's get right into it. So we'll start with knee hugs first, alternating, bringing that knee up, get a good squeeze with both hands, and then switch sides, alternating back and forth. In this class, we're going to be working on mobility and stretching as well, getting those muscles nice and loose for the rest of your day. Right here, just switching back and forth, hugging that knee to the chest, and relax. Next, we're gonna go into neck rolls to the right. Nice big rolls. Trying to get any kinks out that are in there. Keep those shoulders down, away from the ears. Nice big circles here. All right, and let's switch it to the left. Big neck rolls to the left. Again, keeping those shoulders down, making sure we're not leaning backwards. Just kind of relaxing as much as you can. Getting as big of circles as you can. And relax. All right, next we're gonna go into hip openers. So we'll bring one knee up and then rotate it out and down. And switching, so we're getting a little bit of balance and we're trying to open up those hips as much as you can, keeping our feet up as well. Kind of like you're going over a little miniature fence, but it's all on the hip right here. Should feel our quad activate too to keep our foot off the ground. Just back and forth here. Knee up and out, and then foot down. Good, make sure we're not leaning back here. Keeping our core nice and tight. Good, and we'll rotate backwards or the other way. So we'll go out and up first, and then in and down. Good, if you want to flow through it a little bit faster, that's totally fine. Kind of like you're stepping over a little miniature fence. So out and up, and then in. Just rotating at the hip. Back and forth. Going at your own pace. As much range of motion in the hips as you can get. And relax. All right, next we're gonna go side bends. All right, so we'll shoot one arm over the head to the wall, pushing our hips with the opposite arm, getting that stretch right here. Alternating back and forth. Get a nice stretch. We're hitting that oblique and a little bit of the lats and the shoulder. Go at your own pace, make sure we're breathing. Think about taking deep breaths. If you want to hold one side a little bit longer because it feels a little bit tighter, you can do that. get a couple more in here. And relax. Next we're gonna hit those hamstrings, so we'll do a standing forward fold. We're not gonna hold it, just reaching all the way down, touching as far down as you can, and then standing all the way back up at the top, and repeat. Keeping those legs nice and straight. Getting that hamstring stretch for that second or two. Still just trying to warm the muscles up. What I like to do is when I reach down, kind of sweep my hands forward to come on up. Legs stay as straight as you can, getting that hamstring stretch. Breathing. We'll do a couple more. Last one. And relax. All right. Next we're gonna go feet nice and wide, so a nice and wide base. We're gonna go down to our right foot with our left hand, and our right arm is gonna come up. And then we're gonna switch sides. So we wanna think about looking at that arm that's in the back and reaching to touch our toe with that opposite arm. Okay, so we're just going back and forth here. You can feel free to hold at the bottom for a second if you need to. Trying to keep the legs nice and straight. Nice and controlled. Core stays nice and tight. Breathing through the movement. Make sure we come all the way up before we go down again. All right, and relax. Let's keep those feet nice and wide. Next, we're gonna go all the way down to the middle. Reach as far back as you can for about a second or two, and then standing all the way up at the top, shooting the hips forward. So the hips go back as I go down. We get that hamstring stretch, and then hips come forward to help me stand all the way up here. All right, so reach as far down and back as you can, getting that quick hamstring activation, and then getting the hips forward so that we're up nice and tall at the top, squeezing the glutes, okay? Remember, go at your own pace, breathe the whole time. Let's do one more. And relax. All right, next we're gonna drop down to all fours. So on our hands and our knees, we're gonna do some cat-cows. All right, so with this setup, make sure our wrists are right under our elbows and shoulders, and then our knees are right under our hips. We're gonna go into a cat position with our head down. Our core gets nice and tight, squeezing our abs down. Lower back can round, pushing up, and then going into a cow. Head comes up, butt goes back. And we're gonna alternate back and forth here. Going at your own pace, Staying nice and controlled. Squeezing at each end. Breathing the whole time. Trying to get as much range of motion as you can. Make sure we're getting that 1 to 2 second squeeze at each end in our core, our lower back, and our abs. Let's do one more on each side. And relax. All right, next we're gonna get into knee drops. So we'll be on our back. Knees bent, feet on the ground, kind of just like we're setting up for a glute bridge. And then we're gonna just let our knees fall to one side, trying to keep both of our shoulders on the ground for about a second, and then we'll switch sides, let them fall to the other side. We don't want our shoulders to come off the ground here. We want to feel that rotation in our core and our opposite oblique. A little bit in our lower back to kind of loosen up our lower back. Just switching back and forth. Keeping our core nice and tight. Squeezing our lower back down to the ground. Let's do one more on each side. And relax. All right, come on up. Let's grab a quick sip of water before we get into our stretch part. Now that our muscles are nice and warm. We're gonna start on one knee with the right side hip flexor stretch. All right, so our right knee will be down, and then our left foot will be down, bent at that left knee. All right, and then we're gonna lean forward onto that left side, stretching our hip flexor right here. You can feel free to put a hand down if you need to. Make sure we're keeping that left foot on the ground, especially the heel. We don't want to add extra pressure to that knee, but we're really looking to stretch right here, this hip flexor. So we'll just hold it here. Let's start dialing in on our breathing, thinking about deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. Trying to fill the lungs up. Relaxing as much as we can. And release. Let's go ahead and switch sides. So we'll have our left knee down, hitting that left hip flexor right here. Our right foot in front, bent at the knee, and then we're just gonna lean forward into it, hitting that left hip flexor right here. If you want to put a hand down for balance, that's totally fine. Still focusing on breathing, deep breaths, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Making sure we keep that right foot down, especially the heel. Make sure we're not pushing it too much to where we're feeling a strain. Just enough of a stretch, and then maybe you can fall deeper into that stretch the longer you hold it. All right, and come on up. Let's go ahead and switch back to that right side. So that same right side setup, but we're gonna try to drop our elbows, or that inside elbow, to the inside of the ankle. If you want to drop down to both, that totally works too. If not, you can have both hands here and then kind of ease down into it if you can't quite get down to the elbows. But essentially, we want to try to work our way to getting our elbows down on the ground on the inside of that left foot. Still trying to fill those lungs up with air, breathing as deep as you can. All right, and let's make our way up nice and slow. Both hands on the ground, pushing, and then we're gonna switch sides. So we have our left knee down, right foot up, right knee up, and then we're dropping our elbows or we're lowering on our hands on the inside of that right foot, inside of the right ankle, trying to add a little bit of stretch on that right leg as well. Remember, still focusing on deep breaths, in through the nose, out through the mouth, relaxing as much as you can. You can close your eyes if that'll help. But just kind of fall into the stretch, relax, taking deep breaths. All right, and come on up. Next, we're gonna go into a left side pigeon pose. All right, so we'll have that left leg in front of you, slightly under 90 degrees at the knee. Right leg is gonna be straight back, and then we're gonna drop our chest over that left knee so we get that left glute stretch. All right, if you want a more intense stretch, you can always move your foot up or down and change that angle in the knee as you need. Or you can change the angle of your upper body by moving more towards the foot or more towards the knee. But just kind of staying here, dropping down, focusing on breathing, focusing on relaxing. Trying to get your head nice and close to the ground. Make sure you're falling into that stretch. All right, let's come on up, and we're gonna switch sides. So we're in that right side pigeon pose. So that right knee is bent a little bit under 90 degrees. Our left leg is behind us, and we're dropping our chest over our right knee. Remember, we can change the angle of the knee by moving our foot up and down to get a more intense or less intense stretch, or we can change the angle of where our upper body is laying. So if we want to move it more towards the foot, we can feel free to do that, or more towards the knee, totally fine too. It's all about where you're wanting to feel the stretch and how intense you're wanting to feel it. Remember, we don't want to strain here. We want to stretch that we can eventually fall deeper into the longer we hold it. So we're still taking nice deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. All right, come on up. Next, we're gonna go into a saddle stretch. All right, so we'll be on both knees. We're gonna have our toes together, our big toes, and then we're gonna have our knees a little bit wider. We're gonna sit on our heels if you can, so we're getting that quad stretch right here. If we want a even deeper, more intense stretch, or if that's not enough for you, you can always start leaning back, making our way back to the ground if you can. If not, right here is totally fine. Just leaning as far back until you feel a stretch in your quad. So we're aiming for right here. We're aiming for ankles. If this is uncomfortable for you, you can always put a pillow under you. But just kind of sinking down into it. Using our breaths to combat the uncomfortableness if that's what you're having. Still taking deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. Trying to fill the lungs up as much as possible. Trying to relax as much as possible. Closing your eyes if you need to. Falling deeper into the stretch. All right, come on up. And then we're gonna finish in the butterfly pose. All right, so we'll be seated on the ground, bringing our feet together and in towards us, letting our knees fall to the side. All right, we'll grab a hold of our ankles, and then we're gonna push our knees down with our elbows for an added groin stretch right here. If we need a little bit more of a stretch, you can lean forward into it or bring those feet closer. We want to focus on taking deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, filling our lungs up as much as we can, exhaling all that air out, closing your eyes for a little added relaxation. Just focusing on deep breaths in and out. And release. All right, guys, that's all for today. Thanks for coming. Make sure to drink plenty of water and have a good rest of your day. I'll see you next time.